Okay, hello everybody. This is Marla Martenson, and you are watching another episode of Conversations with Cupid. And I am with Grace Cavanaugh. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you. Good to see
I
you, Marla.
I just want to read one thing that you have on your website that you wrote, and it says, "We are living in incredible times, often referred to as the Golden Age by many ascended masters. It is a time of evolution and awakening. I am in full service to the mission of these times, for I know I am to be a channel and a conduit, an ambassador of sorts for the highest healing, highest good, highest living, highest transcendence, highest love, and the most high light. It is my great pleasure and my greatest gift to share."
Mm,
And I love that. And I love that you are channeling all this amazing information. So let's just get right into it.
great.
What is a channel, and what is the difference between a channel and a medium, and how did you become one?
Okay, that's wonderful. So let me see. Channeling is basically receiving information. We all do this. We all do channeling if we kept it in a generic, general sense, because basketball players channel their greatest champion. Musicians channel from some unknown place and some invisible place. The sounds and the magic that comes through. Composers do. We all do. Some of us have paid attention to the times when you're talking to somebody and you're telling them something and you just feel like, wow, that just came out of me, and it was for me as well, it was for you, and I didn't even realize, where did that come from? That was not me speaking, and it was because it was coming through you and it was being channeled through you. It was a higher source on some level. And so we all have an ability to channel, and we do this regularly on all kinds of levels daily. When you do it specifically the way that I do, in many circles, it's called trance channeling or conscious channeling. And the difference between channeling or trance channeling, conscious channeling, and mediumship is it's almost like it's the direct source. So I move out of the way and I allow for that source to just speak through me. And when a medium is getting her or their impressions, her or him, their impressions, they're getting them and they're sort of outside of themselves in different ways. And then they're doing an interpretation to give that information. So if they're seeing a red rose, if they're sensing a feeling coming through them, being cold, being tired, these things are the things that they translate to the person they're trying to give the information. And a lot of times it's like really trying to connect, and because if it's like that and it's a spirit, like someone who's crossed over, they give as much as they possibly can to reach us. And so now what I do is there have been many trance channelers. Edgar Casey, very well known, famous one, volumes and volumes and books and books and books of amazing, some of it prophetic material, some of it medical, amazing. There's all kinds of channelers along the road here, and I believe that goes back for all time.
And
I think
Jane Roberts with the Seth material, Esther Hicks
yes,
with Abraham. And who
yes,
are you channeling?
thank you. I channel a collective of 12 called Osairah. I also channel other what I guess I call masters, high beings of light. Some of them similar, Mother Mary, and different ones. It just depends on who I'm in front of, and a lot of times it's about the intention too of the group or the person or myself.
So a collective of 12. So these are 12 entities, spirits, angels, guides, or what? And where are they? From different dimensions, right?
Yeah, and so this is what's kind of fascinating about Osairah. They say that they're a family of light, and that means that there's a lot of them. They've said thousands. And so basically it's like a collective group. It's as if we were on Earth and we all belonged. There was, 1,000 people who agreed to be a part of this one group that was for higher consciousness and for benevolent purposes, and you were considered in the family of that. And that's what they are, and their souls and their beings, and many of them have incarnated and many of them have not. And on any given time when I'm going to channel, 12 of them feel the call, pull it. I don't really know how they decide who gets to come, but 12 of them come. And that's pretty, it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. The room changes. The energetics of the room, you can feel the frequency shift. People have emotion come up in different ways. It's a powerful experience. And then they sort of congeal together as one voice. And I move off of myself, and it's sort of like a deep, deep meditation, and more like, in some ways, dissociation. So it's also kind of trance, and I move away. My egoic self moves off. Sometimes I'm still slightly connected. It feels like a little corridor, like you're having some sort of dream over there. And then they come in and they converge and they begin to speak. And how I became to do this is a happening to me, I say, because in many ways I would have never guessed in 100 years that this is what I would be doing at this time in my life or any of it. I was always very psychic as a child, in tune, very much on a spiritual path on some level, especially after I moved out of the house and just was on my own and was always seeking. I recently thought of the fact that my first heroine was Shirley Temple. My second one was Martin Luther King, and my third was Shirley MacLaine. So I guess I got a little bit of all of them in me, and I had a varying career life, did a lot of different things. But when this hit me, it was almost like a huge spiritual awakening. And it was really intense, and it was not always easy. And it was actually a steep and hard, fast curve of learning. In meditation is where I felt the pull for Osairah to speak through me. And that was very scary and unknown to me, and I didn't have teachers or guides. And so this was a long evolution of an interesting road.
Well, Esther Hicks says that she also, in meditation, Abraham started coming through. So how long had you been meditating, and had you been, was this an everyday thing and for years, or how did you really, because I try to meditate every day, and it's so hard to even stop the chatter. I'm like, shut up.
Yes,
Shut up.
I know. And that happened to me too. And I think one of the things is I was going through a period, at that time in particular, I was doing various things. And this is just what happened to me. It's sort of like, I know how we all kind of want to, well, they did it this way, so maybe if I could do it that way, it'll work. And I really see this as a like, whoa, oh my gosh, this came in and this piece of life happened to me. And it was a series of all kinds of things that, to talk about. I can definitely share all that, but it's like a lot of the various pieces that evolved this into the state of being that it is now. But at that time, I was feeling like I was going through a divorce. I had separated. I had 2 small children, and my dad had been suddenly killed, and the psychic awareness stuff had started. I started to see things. I started to become very clairvoyant, and there was a little anxiety with what that was all being. Fact that my dad was killed, that my marriage was ended, and I was a single mom, and I was in a place of, I went to hypnotherapy college. I wanted to do hypnotherapy because I'd always been fascinated by what we can manifest and how we block ourselves. And so that related to the mind and all of that. And that was fabulous. And that was one of the things that pushed my psychic awareness as well, because hypnosis really relaxes you, and the subconscious mind lets all kinds of things come up. And for me, my psychic awareness just was bubbling and bubbling and bubbling up. And so I started to meditate simply out of sheer desire to calm my anxiety. So I was meditating, I was doing yoga, I was eating really clean. So there was just a lot of things that were kind of converging at the time. And I just would feel this pull, this nagging. I talked about it in those days like a nudging, like somebody was knocking on the door. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I would actually stop meditating. I'd look around and I'd be like, okay, who's here? And it took a while before I was willing to even open my mouth. And once I did, that was really uncomfortable. And I had to go through a lot personally to deal with how I felt about all of that. Like, now it seems so easy. I can just close my eyes and I could do this right here, right now. But back then I was like, oh my God, I would cry at the idea of what this looked like, of what it sounded like. I would cry because it would have so much emotion moving through and energy, literally energy shifting and aligning my body so that my throat chakra could open, so that I could step off enough to feel safe enough to let them use my language to use my body. Okay. So it's an interesting and actually over time a beautiful experience to come to trust something you can't see, but I just know. And that kind of goes back to being a child too. I just had a lot of I guess I would call them angelic presence awarenesses. I saw light in everything. I saw the energy of livingness around everything. So, and I also had some pretty intense, scary experiences with sleep paralysis and seeing in the other dimensions.
I've had the sleep paralysis where I just am, I'll wake up, but I can't open my eyes. I can't move. I can't scream. And I'm like, wanting to scream to my husband, help, help. And I'm just paralyzed, and it's so frightening, and it feels so scary. And that's happened to me so many times, not lately, but it happened a lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And I've gone through that as well. And then I've gone through almost like a schooling, like a teaching on how we can work with that and what it's really there for. Because energies come in and they participate with that. And so you have to learn how to be the master experiencer.
Mm-hmm. And then that's, they say that could be connected with astral travel.
Absolutely.
Polaris, which I've been working a little bit with too. So,
I had a profound, after my father died, I had a profound, life-altering spiritual experience with out-of-body astral traveling. Like literally, I only had that feeling of, I really believe it was a near-death experience without having to nearly die.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember everything. I remember everything still to this day, and that was about 9 years ago, and it was profound.
And then, can you still astral travel now? Do you do it, or can you do it at will, or if?
I can do it, and I don't do it at will all the time. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let's do this, and then sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
And what's interesting is more and more I see more and more people channeling. I mean, you hear about it a lot all of a sudden, whereas there would just be, Jane Roberts or Esther Hicks or somebody. And now it's like there's channels all over the place. And people, I go to all these spiritual workshops and I try a lot of modalities, and I work on a lot of things. It's a hobby. It's a lot of fun for me. And I'm meeting all these people who are doing this. And do you have any idea why now people are able to open up and do this? Because I guess anybody can if you put your attention on it.
Yeah, I believe you can. I mean, there's definitely what I would call layers of discovery with that, because I don't think that, I think there's different, I guess the way I want to say that is there's different layers of an ability of channeling. There are people who are channeling their highest or higher self, and it's just a different experience when you're connected as a clear channel, and when you or the person or the people, a group is hearing someone who's very connected with their ego and is a higher channel. I mean, they're channeling their higher self, or a person who is, you can feel it, you can see it, you can sense it, you just know it has the ring of there's no egoic construct connected here. So that's a clear channel. And I was really insecure about that. Like, I just was never going to be a person who was going to go out and say this or do this stuff if I didn't feel the integrity and the authenticity 1000%. And so I kept it all kind of hidden. It was happening to me. I would share it with some friends. And I was really on a path of this evolving to where I could stand in myself, knowing that no matter who came, asked questions, said what, I knew that I was a clear channel, and this was not me dropping information in or being a medium saying that I was doing that. And I even had at one point a beautiful experience with Lisa Williams, who is a psychic. She had a show on on TLC. Merv Griffin brought her over from Europe, and she sees dead people. And she's a pretty powerful and amazing medium. And I went to her and I spent a weekend with her doing a mediumship to understand what was I really doing and what was really happening here for me. And she put her hand after the weekend on me. And I asked her, I said, I have these 2 little kids and I'm trying to do all this, but I see these things and I can't navigate all this stuff. And I don't know if I'm really doing this and is it really true? And I want to be honest. I never want to be a facade or anything. So she put her hand on my shoulder and she just looked directly, deeply into me. And she just said, Grace, you are beyond what I do, in her English accent. I wish I could do one. And you're beyond what I do. You're beyond mediumship. You are a clear and divine channel. You just come and it comes like this, she said. So it was a confirmation and a validation from someone who had been living it, for a very, very long time, that what I was doing. I needed to have that. We all need our little validations. We all need our confirmations to say, okay, you've done this work, girlfriend. You're okay. Get on with it. Now keep moving forward. And so I did. But yeah, there are a lot of people doing channeling at this time because our world is really, really changing. I started sort of in the spiritual realm with lots of different ways because my mom was on her own spiritual path. And I remember that in like 1987, there was some sort of harmonic convergence on the earth. Well, recently, Osairah has been talking about that, having been a specific kind of gateway. This was just sort of in a new age time, right? Because if you think back that time, like Shirley MacLaine, everybody thought she was just crazy. And, I'm sure the Abraham stuff was in small groups around back then. And now it's huge.
And Bashar, too. Bashar.
Yeah, and Bashar now is big. And so the reason is because as we've been evolving, once we hit 2012, especially, we're in a major acceleration, but everything before that was moving us to that point. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like there's a code of light that's being woken up on this planet. Mm-hmm. And so for some people who've never even considered this stuff or even heard those terms, I understand how it's going to take its development in the psyche to think about this and, have conversation about it. But there are people who, when you say these things, it's literally their language. It's they just know, oh, that's exactly what I'm here for. Yes. And how do I develop and how do I grow and where is my role and what is and some of them already come in knowing it, and it just keeps waking up and waking up and waking up and waking up.
So you said that you'll bring in Osairah for us because I have a question. So okay. Can we do that? This is so exciting.
Yes. All right. Yeah, we can. So when I do one-on-one private sessions or when I do the group sessions, because I do public group sessions as well, we could be talking like this and having our chat, and then all of a sudden what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to breathe and I'm going to move off like I described, and then they're going to come in and start to talk to you, and watch out, we'll see what they have to say, and then you can ask them their questions. Okay, so I'll see you soon, and I always have to yawn, so forgive me. Indeed, greetings to you, dear one. We are that one known as Osairah, and we are in fact overjoyed at this moment in your timeline to be present with you. We say it is our extraordinary joy. And here we come this day, you could say, from what you would understand to be the 5th dimension. We are also recognizing the 7th dimension. We are connected on those levels in participation with this moment in your timeline. We are happy to be of service this day, you could say. It is our purpose and our passion. We look forward to this moment in our timeline with you, dear one.
Hello, Osairah. So good to see you again.
Indeed, beloved one.
Thank you. So I have a question here, and this is something dear to my heart, and I think I want you to be able to impart some wisdom on this because everyone lately is really involved and immersed with angels, and I myself recently connected with my angels, and I'm able to connect to them on my talking board, and this is my talking board, which is just the letters of the alphabet, and I can go on there. I've opened up my energy enough in the past year of working on my spiritual practice to be able to take my planchette and connect and get messages and beautiful, loving, amazing messages from my angels. Now there are people, a specific person in my life who would like me to have me committed to an insane asylum because how can you're moving it, you've got to be moving. There are no angels, they're just fantasy pictures people paint. There's no angels with wings, but there's so many workshops now and books and angel card readings. So let us know, what are angels? Do they exist? And am I crazy?
Hmm.
Thank you,
And you
Osairah.
know, dear one, as truth be told, you know, dear one, you are not. And yes, angels exist. We, in fact, you could say, are that. And when we say that, it is because there is consciousness in all its various forms. We say to you that when one tends to believe not in angels, there is only a willingness when the experience happens. There are those beings who come into your planet who literally know this because they are hardwired themselves as angels. It is similar to being earth angels or having, how shall we say it, an encodement of angelic nature. Now, what we would say is some of you have even met beings such as this, and you know it, you feel it in your bones, and you say something like, oh, that one is an angel. And you mean it by the placement of the characteristics that have been, quote, assigned to being an angel. But what we will say is you are feeling the vibration, you are feeling the magnetism, you are feeling the encodement of that which is angelic. And it does exist. It is what you would call in your third dimension real. Now, real and not real, that is a whole nother conversation we will have. But to say to you about the angelic forces that are at work and at play, there are different dimensional frequencies because consciousness exists in all time and all space. As it is occurring, there are various levels of receivership. You all, meaning human beings that want to experience this feeling, can and do. When why it is here, no, we shouldn't say it like that. What we want to say is the way in which it is expressing through your world at this time is because the call is there. It is time for that. Now, that is not to say angels have not been present. If you look throughout your own history, they have been drawn in the arts, painted in the arts, written about. It is all pervading in your, what you call your history. And there are most definitely benevolent beings of light. When you think of them with wings, this is also a beautiful description of an aspect of consciousness that takes on that form. Light beings are carrying a frequency, so they can come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. When there are at this time this concept called orbs, and people are quite fascinated by when they take pictures or they find energies moving about the film or the video, we say to you, those are consciousnesses and consciousness that has taken that type of form. Does that make sense, firstly?
Yes, I have my iPhone and I will turn it onto video with the light and I watch the orbs in my room all the time. And then also the same person who'd like to have me committed said that's not said that that's just a reflection. And I said, "No, I think it's my angels. There's blue, there's green, there's pink passing by." Then I thought, "But is it just dust?" And so you
We have
question,
heard
of
that one
course.
before. Oh no, it is just dust,
It's just dust,
Osairah.
but there's different shapes. There's big, they go fast, they go zoom, and I love my orbs too, and I just call them my angels.
Indeed, indeed. And that is it. It is that there are those who, you are all on an evolutionary path, and those consciousnesses, just like yourself, are moving through time and space, taking on a form. You, in this lifetime, dear one, took on a form called this body, this history, this name, this life path. You are that consciousness in this lifetime, focused intently on being who you are. You are also multidimensional. You are elsewhere as well. And that is what you do and you experience when you dream time. You move off yourself so heavily focused as this life, and you connect to other aspects of you having other experiences. This is such a deep conversation. It is not always easy to put it in a little sound bite, but we try our best, and we have many ways of layering and having that conversation. But it is the same for those consciousnesses called angels. When you are an angelic being, you can choose to participate in different ways, just the same way you do. You believe in the third dimension because of the ways in which this is literally constructed with law of the third dimension. You believe that this is all there is, and this is the body you are, and that is it. And then when you die, you will move off this body. And some of you ask, oh, I don't know where I will go. What will I be? What will I do? And we often say death is no thing whatsoever. It is literally unzipping, as it has often been referred to, this meat suit, stepping out and being the free beingness that you are, which is consciousness of the oneness of all creation, and you connect with all that you are. You move through the veil, and when you are in your room, dear one, and you are recognizing these lights and these connections, it is similar to our channel having this kind of experience many, many times where she feels the presence come into the room and literally sees those things that for some would be terrifying when it seems to be a consciousness that is not in a form that they can recognize. So she has had to do her works as well to understand how it is that consciousness takes on all kinds of form. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. And the other dimension, so the angels, so the reason that most people can't see angels is because they are on other dimensions, and the frequency, we're not attuned to that frequency, correct?
Indeed. So it is as if, even if they are present in this physical room that our channel is sitting in, this body here, and they move through the space, sometimes you all can feel the presence. Sometimes you are not aware at all of what is participating all around you. There is what is referred to as the invisible realm happening all day, every day, continuously by your side. It is just learning to sensitize, connect with, and align with that which is there. It does not mean you are crazy when you connect to that, although we do understand how it is that it has been termed that way. One of the things we say many times over is that it has been a painful experience for many human beings who have known and seen, even as our channel has, the things that can move through a space. And to see it, you in this timeline, you call it the paranormal. Well, that has been happening upon your earth since forever, we could say. And when those human beings have seen that, it has caused a big uproar for many. And what you have begun to label someone who has seen this or lives in that alternate experience as well as being here on this planet, that has often been referred to as schizophrenia. Now, we are not taking away any value to the idea that there is an extreme experience with that. That we are saying is real experience for a human being who has that going on. But oftentimes it is because that person is literally bombarded with so much that they see and experience and know about and interpret while being here in the third dimension where the laws say you cannot see it, be it, know it, experience it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
That is really amazing. And one other thing that people ask me, it's so funny right away, which never would come to my mind, is, oh, you better be careful because what if a demon comes through? If you're connecting on that board, a demon or evil. I don't even contemplate evil because all around me is my thoughts are good, angelic, and the high light. So what do you say to this?
Mm-hmm. And so it is for many the same exact way you have just described for them as well. And then there are those who have a connection to fear that brings that kind of experience to them. In some ways, the fear experience brings it to them because they actually want to experience it. It may be a very hidden or what you would say deeply embedded, or as our channel says, the subconscious mind is very much hidden, the aspects of wanting to connect with that. Then if you go deeper with the idea of that, some of that is what is termed, and use this word we do because it is easier in this timeline, because it has a definition that many humans are understanding, which is it is karmic. So they have this connection. Now, we are not discounting that those energies, called the darker energies, they just wear a different colored t-shirt. We smile very brightly because they have free will and free reign to be here too, because all of creation is here. You all have the ability to participate on anything at any time you desire. Does that mean you want to? Not always. So yes, there is that potential. It is always there. It is whether or not you are going to participate. Now, when it comes to this conversation, this kind of idea, our channel did the very same thing you did. She had literally no concept, thought about the idea that demons were man-made, that the idea that the dark side, the devil, all of these kinds of constructs of belief that have been created, that are in your books, that are all of that. Indeed, we were saying that our beloved channel had what you would say a period of time where she went through what is often called, for her, she is calling, and we should say, the dark years. So for her, she went on a learning curve of how it is that those energies exist as well, to incorporate so that she would not be fearful of that experience. It is that it became a neutrality for her then, because all things exist. They just take on different energetics to learn their various levels of their own awakening, soul advancement, and offerings, and all things are valid. All things, no matter what happens upon your plane, and this is a very difficult concept we know for many human beings because we have had many conversations with this idea. All things are exactly as they need be. So when an entity or an energy or a human even takes on what is termed a darkness and literally lives that or acts it out or participates on the invisible realm or any of the such ideas, that is a perfection action as well, because it helps, regardless of what it looks like to the human observer, it helps, it offers the growth, it moves energies and advances all parts and players. Does that make sense?
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question too. Fairies. I'm thinking now, learning about all of this stuff, that there's other dimensions. When in all of our folklore, and now they're talking more about fairies and gnomes and unicorns and things, and it's just imagination and fairy tales. But I'm thinking maybe these things exist because they are on another realm, another dimension that we can't see, but maybe seers or psychics have seen them, and that's where they came from in the first place. But we just can't see them, and so we think, well, that's not real. But I think fairies might be real.
Well, indeed, you are true. That is exactly right. That is why it is that you call your medicine men or your shamans, they have peered in, or your psychics, they have peered in through the invisible layers of the different realms that are existing even here on what you call your third dimensional planet Earth. Yes, indeed. And those, it is similar to the idea, if you look even at your physical world, the creation of your movies, your theater movies are creating worlds that exist with all kinds of things. Those things are not just made up out of imagination. Imagination is connecting to creation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because now all the even TV shows have magic in them, and they have vampires, and they have beings of all types. This is more and more prevalent.
Do you know, too, dear one, that is no accident? There is a perfect alignment with all things being revealed in the perfect time-space continuum on this planet, because even if you consider 20 years in your future, your world will be fascinatingly very very different than it is now. And you are all, in some way, prepping yourself for that experience of change.
And even I've had so many, probably 3 or 4 intuitives or psychics tell me that I have a fairy energy, that I'm part fairy, that I used to be fairy. Is
Mhm.
that possible, that humans, were we other
Oh,
beings before
indeed.
we came in?
Indeed,
We could have
indeed. You
been
have had
something.
how many lifetimes, dear one? We would say thousands of lifetimes you have had. So you have most definitely, as the consciousness of you, decided, well, when you are in a different alternate space of deciding on where you would like to spend another focused intention of your point of creation, you move off into different places and different forms. And that doesn't always include just this realm, third dimensional earth human beingness.
And the third dimension has got to be the toughest place to be. It is so painful that humans are so cruel and have so much anger, and now people are chopping off heads and shooting people in stores, and our food supply is contaminated. The water is polluted. It's dangerous here. It's a hard place to be. And I think, oh, I don't want to come back here. When I'm gone. So, is this the only place that is like this, that we incarnate to, and all the other dimensions are a lot more loving? Is this
No,
the real? We're in the trenches here in the third
well, you
dimension.
most definitely are in the trenches here, but this is where you have a open, wide range. But this is all perfect too. That is why the conversation often is difficult for some of our human friends when we say, but no matter if people are in this experience chopping off heads, and we do not promote that. That is not what we are saying. But what we are saying is that is all perfect, and it has all been happening along the way too. That is not anything new, and you are just having the magnification of it in this timeline at this moment, especially with the way that you are all connected now. And it is for the change. The divine feminine is rising upon your planet, and she is calling, just as the mothers, just as the women, just as the change is calling it forward. You are all asking for that type of pain to stop on this planet. But we do say that you all bring each other that stuffs, and we mean that in the way of the experiences of pain, suffering. You bring that to each other for the highest growth. We often say, when we are sharing with our human friends, that it is your greatest lesson to look on an experience and not to judge it, not to judge it as good or bad. We know that is quite difficult on your plane because there are so many who stand for what is called justice and want to make things, quote, right. And we understand that so intensely for you. And yet we would like to say that in its order, it is all divine. You cannot look upon another's journey and judge it and say that one was bad and wrong. He or she did those things, and how could they? They were the worst. It was so very wrong, wrong, wrong. You cannot know what the experience was for that being or the beings involved, what their souls came to learn. You all dress things up. You cannot only dress them up in the good and the light and the fairies and the joy and the laughter and the peace and the harmony and the in-loveness. No, that is why it is all creation is happening here. It is all creation. You sometimes dress it up in the darkest, darkest places so that you will learn that lesson that way, so you will grow and expand, so you will shift off places inside of you that are parts of that which you no longer wish to experience. So that is why we say so often, do not look upon another's path with anything but love and compassion. And that is a difficult one in your world because you are all running around with a program that says this is right and this is wrong. You are all running around with a concept and constructs of belief on what you believe is the rightest and the wrongest way of being. And we say that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for its highest purposes being served.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
Thank you. Well, I mean, and can you just give us a quick your thoughts on pets? How dog is man's best friend, and they rely completely upon us. And do they travel with us as well through our lifetimes and in soul groups? And do they have souls?
And very much so they do, and very much so they often carry on in the same kind of form, and you're calling it dog. They do not always. They also accelerate their growth and their observation and their soul's journey. They have a soul, and their journey is its own as well as it is yours. And then what we would like to say is that the evolution of souls is the incredible experience that you are all witnessing as you are out picturing that you believe you are separate. So you look at your dog, or you look at your lover, or you look at your friend or your child or your cousin, and you think to yourself, that person, that dog, that being is separate from me. And we say, no, you are out picturing aspects of the beauty and the grace and the love and the light and the experience of growth in yourself through another. You are all divine and beautiful mirrors of each other, even your pets, because in truth, you are all awakening and arising to your highest selves. You are in soul growth. That is what you are doing here. So when a being takes on this dog form, when it elevates to the point where it has gained everything it really wants to through the dog soul life living experience, it can move on. You, dear one, you have all been various forms. You have been the animals. You have been the horse. You have been these, all of these. So that is why never look upon a soul inside of a different body and think of it as so less than you. You are all beings in soul growth.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I feel more connected to my dog, Macy, than a lot of people. Then there we go, a dog. Osairah, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, dear one. It has been our pleasure.
Thank you.
We bid you a magical and happy adieu.